"Dad?" Tommy called out, his voice trembling. There was no response. He took a deep breath and summoned the courage to look under the bed. To his horror, he saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at him. "Dad!" Tommy cried again, louder this time. The glowing eyes blinked once, then vanished into the shadows. Tommy's mind raced with fear and confusion. Was it a trick of his imagination? Or was there really something under his bed? Just then, the bedroom door swung open, and Tommy's father rushed in, a concerned look on his face. "What's wrong, Tommy?" he asked, noticing the fear in his son's eyes. Tommy pointed hesitantly towards the bed. "There was something under there," he stammered. His father knelt down and peered under the bed, but there was nothing there except darkness. "It's just your imagination, son," he reassured Tommy, patting him gently on the shoulder, but Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. As his father tucked him into bed and turned on the night light, Tommy couldn't help but glance nervously at the closet and the dark corners of the room. Once upon a time, in a quiet little town nestled among the hills, there lived a young boy named Tommy. Tommy was like any other child, except for one thing: he was terrified of the dark. The shadows that danced on his bedroom walls at night seemed to take on sinister forms, and the faintest creaks and groans of the old house made his imagination run wild. To cope with his fear, Tommy's parents always left his bedroom door slightly ajar. They would tuck him into bed each night, assuring him that there was nothing to fear, and they would share stories of brave knights and friendly dragons until Tommy drifted off to sleep one stormy night, as thunder rumbled and rain lashed against the windows. Tommy's parents were downstairs, trying to calm their nerves with a cup of tea. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was an old rotary phone tucked away in the corner of the living room, rarely used except for emergencies. Tommy's father answered the phone, but all he heard was static and crackling. He frowned, wondering if the storm had interfered with the phone lines. Meanwhile, upstairs in Tommy's room, the atmosphere felt charged with an eerie electricity. Back in the bedroom, Tommy had just finished putting on his pajamas when he heard a strange sound coming from beneath his bed. It was a soft shuffling, almost like someone moving around. Tommy's heart raced as he backed away, his eyes fixed on the darkness under his bed. "Dad?" Tommy called out, his voice trembling. There was no response. He took a deep breath and summoned the courage to look under the bed. To his horror, he saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at him. "Dad!" Tommy cried again, louder this time. The glowing eyes blinked once, then vanished into the shadows. Tommy's mind raced with fear and confusion. Was it a trick of his imagination? Or was there really something under his bed? As the storm outside intensified, casting eerie shadows across the walls, Tommy tried to calm his racing thoughts. But just as he began to drift off to sleep, he heard a soft whisper from the closet. "Tommy!" His eyes shot open, and he sat up in bed, his heart pounding in his chest. The voice was faint, almost like a distant echo. "Who's there?" Tommy called out, his voice trembling. There was no response. The only sound was the howling wind outside. Tommy's mind raced with fear and curiosity. Was it all just his imagination, or was there really something lurking in the darkness of his room? Hours passed, and the storm eventually subsided. Tommy's parents had long since retired to their own beds, leaving him alone in the darkness. Exhausted from fear and uncertainty, Tommy finally succumbed to sleep, but just as the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, Tommy woke with a start. Something was different. The air felt heavy, and the room was unnaturally silent. Slowly, he turned his head towards the closet where the whisper had originated. To his horror, the closet door was now slightly ajar, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the morning light. Tommy's heart raced as he summoned the courage to get out of bed. With trembling hands, he approached the closet and hesitantly pushed the door open further, and there, standing in the shadows, was a figure cloaked in darkness. Tommy's blood ran cold as he stared into the faceless void of the creature before him. "Tommy." The figure whispered, its voice a chilling echo in the silence. With a scream, Tommy bolted from the room, his fear consuming him. His parents rushed to his side, trying to calm him down, but Tommy could only babble about the shadowy figure in the closet. As the sun rose and the morning light filled the room, Tommy's father investigated the closet. But there was nothing there except old clothes and dusty shelves. It was just a bad dream,